Welcome to entrepreneurscircle.world, your home to learn the circular economy, meet other entrepreneurs and investors, and grow your ideas. Our focus today is on textiles and the clothing industry. Those of you who took my Udemy course, The Circular Economy, What and Where Are the Opportunities for Entrepreneurs, know the statistics. One large truck of clothes is dumped every second. Hence, the drawback of this very lucrative industry is that it significantly contributes to solid waste pollution. It is estimated that some 60% of all clothing produced ends up in incineration or in landfills within only a few years after being made. Our guests for today's inspiring interview episode are Dale Warren, the CEO of Lifeline Clothing in Malaysia. Dale and Sam, welcome to entrepreneurscircle.world.
Thank you, Gordana.
In Malaysia, if I recall correctly, textile is the second largest polluter, just after oil and gas. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, textiles is a contributor to pollution, and it is a product that can be recycled if it's done properly. But a lot of it's an unregulated a stream of waste for collecting. It's not actually regulated. So a lot of that textile has been left to charities and interested parties to be able to collect the materials. So it misses the formal process in most countries for it to be subsidized by the government to be able to be collected and then recycled. So a lot of it's left up to the goodwill of people that are in the sector to be able to recycle. We do a lot of we do that in Malaysia. We are a textile recycler, and we nothing that we do in textiles goes into landfill. So the materials that we recycle go back into some sort of other use. I think what you're referring to, Gordana, is that a lot of the textile recycling is a big contributor to waste, and a lot of it still falls back into the general waste system. It doesn't actually go into recycling. So, but generally the main backbone of the textile recycling industry is mainly driven by trying to get economic value, which is sustainability, out of the materials that are recycled. So we do that. We're trying to, or we're not trying. We are now zero waste, which wasn't something that was able, that our sort of facility was able to do, say, 8 years ago. Generally, the off materials that we couldn't resell ended up in landfill, but now we can use them for processed engineered fuel, and they're then putting back into industry to release energy for other industrial applications. So that's a good start, but it's not where we want it to go to. We really want to be able to do recycling so that it actually can be a product that can be made in such a way that it's of interest to the community to use it in another manner. So we are also now, our business in recycling is also looking to remake textile materials into other products. So we make making handbags at the moment. And denim is a product that's of such volume that you could then make commercially a product that you can then sell for retail. So we're doing that.
This is one of the questions later on. We can because partially you answered that. So it means that for the circular economy, for really, you mentioned this earlier, closing the loop and reusing, extending the life cycle of all of these materials. To move from recycling to closing the loop, fundamentally, we have to increase the quality. Did I get that right? So that these products are attractive even when they arrive in your bins.
That's right. So if there is a push now to try to make fast fashion more slow fashion, so that the item has its integrity stays intact longer. I don't think that the world's ever going to stop people wanting to feel good about themselves, wanting to look good, wanting to have a quality of lifestyle by wearing a particular branded item. That type of fundamental human nature is we all like to do that. So that's not really going to change. But unless the whole world blows up because we've polluted it so much, then maybe we would, but we should avoid that problem. So I think because if you go back, say 100 years ago, there was, I don't know, 1 billion people on the planet. Those billion people, their lifestyle choices are nowhere near what the 7 billion people that are on the planet's lifestyle choices are now. So back there, 1 billion people would have been happy to have one set of clothes that lasted them 12 months. They'd probably
set the Sunday clothes. True. The work clothes and the Sunday clothes.
Okay, so they had 2 sets. So, but their clothing would have lasted longer, and they wouldn't have had the multi-marketing to, look good, drive this particular car, live in this sort of house. The lifestyle images of 100, 200 years ago were a lot slower. So the necessities of clothes and how they were still important to have the Sunday best looking clothes, but they were less likely to change like they do now. So now the marketing, the economics behind it's a lot faster.
Now let's talk about the topic of viability. We talked about this in our first conversation, Dale, quite a bit. Mm-hmm. In this industry, there are lots of great ideas, and lots of people are willing to do something, as you said at the beginning. But one of the challenges is how can users, or how can especially investors, see the viability behind this concept? The business case is what I'm getting at. And so how did you at Lifeline Clothing secure the steady flow of clothing, steady flow of your raw material?
Well, it was an evolving process. There is material that you can buy from people who collect it elsewhere. So we started doing that until we got to a stage where we could collect enough of our own material. That process, now we collect our own material and we process our own material. And so it's, self-sustaining, but you have to get to a point where you get enough volume. The hurdle with textile recycling to get to zero waste, for example, is that you need a fairly significant amount to do it. You can't do it with 2 ton, 5 ton, that sort of figure. It's not a full recycling system. You need to get to.
What are your numbers? Tell us your numbers so that we have an idea of how many tons do you work with.
You need to be at least at around 25 ton to 45 ton a day to be able to have enough material to be able to sort it efficiently, to be able to get the material to move around your business so that you can then do the, sending it to different avenues of recycling. So what I think will happen in the future is that when you talk about investment, is that firstly, business they want to know, they need some sort of structure in how the system works. So in our case, we have a fairly good structure. We have a fairly consistent system. Over the time that we've been running, we've kept up with trying to get better at what we do, so that and our core principle is to zero waste to landfill. So we operate on that basis. So if we have to make a decision about going to landfill or spending a bit of money, we'll spend a bit more money so it avoids that process.
We also talked about this. You actually built, we are coming to the topic of infrastructure. If I recall correctly, you built your own infrastructure in order to keep your business viable. So how did you finance that? How did you, because you own all the bins, if I recall correctly.
That's
so
right.
because you created your own system. You mentioned this, but you build a system, you finance the system. How did you do that?
So we just invested our own money into doing that. So, yeah, which is not unusual for most businesses for people to put money into to do that, but that's how we had to start it. Yeah, and the as you know, we probably thought that to do it, we would get to a point of return earlier than what we have, but that's okay. I think that the long-term benefit of doing the recycling will, as the interest for the human activity to be circular becomes stronger and stronger, and it's growing a lot. The interest is growing a lot to be to be circular. Then the experience we've gone through the last 10 years is good experience for us. So it gives us a good practical knowledge about how to do the recycling and what happens and what doesn't happen and what goes wrong. So I think that
exactly something to work with. That's exactly the idea behind entrepreneurcircle.world. We've moved from the Udemy course was our first step, where we introduced a lot of people to the circular economy or to opportunities for entrepreneurs in this area, what you are doing, the cleaning up, or the future, the redesigning the whole systems. And now this is exactly the idea, to help exactly those who have a serious idea, who do want to go the next step, to accelerate. And so this is exactly that. We are actually creating a place.
Well, that's with the awareness. That's what that does.
Exactly.
So you have existing businesses, so that, say, for example, the fashion industry that already operates, that wants to do stuff that's eco-friendly, but then does it in more a display mode rather than an actual change the world mode. Those things will start to change, but it started from say 3 years ago, when we did things that were just more for illustration. So from that, it's moved to doing something that's more practical. From that, it'll move to something that's more commercial. Yes. That's what I think will happen. So
yeah, and I think we will have to also, you mentioned this word quite a few times, and I also teach it in my courses, and here in entrepreneurcircle.world we address this at the beginning, the concept of a system. We will have to redesign the whole textile system as well, because if you really want to, your business shows, if you really want to keep these textiles in circulation for as long as possible, we will need to have a higher quality, but also maybe a little bit, some changes also in design, how textiles are made, how they can be returned to circulation, and so on and so on. We will see, I believe, lots of changes. You said, also mentioned technology. A lot is, as you said, a lot is happening. So what is the biggest mindset challenge in this context, or what has it been when you talk about your business?
I think that most of it is people are not, the options to do things is not that clear, I guess. So if once people have the options to do something, 99% of people will do it. So if it's explained to them properly, the situation, what they're doing. So if they explain to them that this will help recycle, this is the benefit, this is the cost, this is the, you know, the transparency of the program. If that's explained to them, then people, they're usually not negative about doing it. Like the interest we have is very strong. You know, people are very interested in it, in recycling. So it's not a difficult thing to talk about with people. Yeah. So, but what the problem is having different ways of thinking about how you can do it that are not current at the moment. So with you, like yourself, you will connect with people that are somewhere on the globe that doing something that's quite unique, that will connect maybe with myself to say, oh, I've seen you, and then that from that then grows into a process that could become commercial, because people get together to share their ideas. So usually when I communicate with people. I don't segregate. I don't identify. I want to only talk to the person who's the top of the tree. I talk to people who are passionate about recycling is my main criteria, not so much where they are on their journey. So some people might be at the very start of their journey, very passionate, not really doing anything that's of any significance, but them as an individual to me is more important than that they're the king of the road and that they're running the show. You know, I think that everyone in their journey has a very important part to play.
But you bring me to the last question, Dale, about because you're looking at quite a few years in this business. What is your number one recommendation or crucial piece of advice to an aspiring entrepreneur? You said passion is one of the things to look at, but what is other practical thing you would recommend to do?
Just have a go at what you're doing. There'll be, and listen to people around you that have different ideas. So, and don't be frightened of criticism. So I tell my staff that I want to know their problems. So if they have a problem, I need to know, because I can't fix the problem if I don't know about it. So we don't run away from the problem, we face them head on. And that in an Asian culture is not normal, because usually they will say the boss is always right. And I say, no, the boss is not always right. The boss is sometimes wrong. So you need to tell me if something's not going right rather than make me feel good, because in the end, if you don't tell me that, I will end up in trouble. So that, you know, is good. They tell me what's wrong. So then we can try and find a solution to that problem. So the things that we do that are different have basically been driven by a problem that we've found a solution to. They haven't been created from us knowing exactly what to do. They've been, this is a problem, how do we fix it? Then we've figured out something, and then people say, oh, I didn't know you could do that. So that's generally how we've evolved, from problems. So
you learn from problems and allow them to shape you and to form you and to evolve in the process. That's interesting. That's an interesting view. Most people, as you said,
well, most people don't want the problem. You know, they will say, don't tell me about that, I'm too busy, I want to hear good news. But you've really got to hear the bad stuff. So, because that's where you'll generate the most point of difference in what you're doing. So if you can find what the problems are, and if you can find a solution, you're not always going to be able to find a solution. Sometimes the problem can't be solved. So, but at that particular point of time, but if you can find a solution to the problem, then you are far better off than your opposition.
That's true. That's so true. My goodness, there's so much to learn from you guys in this context. I could go on and on asking you questions, because there's so much depth in your experience. But I have to bring it to an end. Thank you so much for sharing your insights today with us. This has been, I think, very valuable for us and for our members who can see what it means to change the existing system. You know, your numbers spoke for themselves. So thank you so much.
No worries. Very good.